Good morning or evening, depends on where you are. Welcome to ThursdAI. You're tuning to the weekly show that keeps you up to date. So if you are like everybody else in the beginning of 2026, overwhelmed with what's going on with AI, there's just too many things at once, and you feel like you need a full-time job covering or just like knowing the news. That's why we're here for. My name is Alex Volkov. I'm an AI evangelist with weights and biases from CoreWeave, and you are on ThursdAI, the weekly AI news show that brings you everything that matters in the world of AI, which is getting, to be very frank, increasingly harder and harder to do. So we have to make hard choices in what we cover. But with me today to help me do this is Jan Peleg and Wolf from Raven Wolf. And we're going to have a few more hosts and guests. How you guys doing? Welcome to the show.
Excellent. How are you, Alex?
Doing
Great
good,
week,
doing
huh?
good. Jan, how are you doing?
Crazy week.
They are crazy.
We are at the fast takeoff. That's the moment. Like that's the moment of takeoff, man.
Did you see my my thing for today? Like I said, we're approaching singularity, and I feel like since December, like stuff has really changed, and so we must absolutely talk about this. Things have changed significantly, and we all felt it, and now it feels like everybody else is feeling this. But also, not only from AI capabilities, just from like the level of AI news, the amount of stuff that people can ship to production for all of us to play. I'm barely able to like catch up to the toys that I'm getting every day.
Need AI to stay up to date with AI, definitely. And everybody is using it to accelerate even more. So it will. We are still in the quiet phase of the year, I'm pretty sure.
Look, it's accelerating because everyone got access to the tools. So now everyone is building and everyone is building more. So you get more stuff. And because you get more stuff, you can use the stuff to make more stuff. And that's pretty much what's going on.
This is how we're getting to the singularity. And this is what I named the show Approaching Singularity today, because it does feel like we've been talking about acceleration for a long time. We've been talking about coding change for a long time before people caught up. We've been talking about open source. But it does feel like since December, and definitely since the beginning of the year, things are accelerating to a stupid degree. And to help us cover that acceleration, folks, I'm very happy to tell you that we have not one, not two, 3 interviews today with incredible folks to help us cover the news. So we're gonna chat with Ben, founder of Pulia. You guys absolutely have to hear about Pulia. This is like insane. This guy is a single founder building an AI company that helps other AI companies grow, and he's passed 650,000 in yearly run rate revenue since like December. And the graph looks parabolic. It's absolutely bonkers. So we're going to chat with them about Pulia and how it is to run a fully autonomous AI company that runs other companies autonomously. Is that we're also going to chat with Nader Dabit from Cognition. Nader is, I don't know, when I presented the team that Nader is going to come, Nistan is like, hey, I owe this guy my career. Nader is like a legendary developer relations person. He recently joined Devin. If you guys remember Devin, we covered Devin. Devin is like the original agentic async coder for you. And we're going to chat with Philip Kiely, who just released a book called Inference Engineering. So all of that is coming later down the show. Meanwhile, I want to add a few other co-hosts here. Guys, I will say this. If we're coasting towards the singularity, there's no better group of people to cover this than this group, for sure, 100%. Welcome, Ryan Carson.
Good to see everybody. Yeah, let's roll into the singularity together and see what happens.
I think this is the show now. This is the show. We're just like vibe coding ourselves into the singularity. LDJ, how you doing?
I am doing great.
Alrighty, short and sweet. I love it because that's actually great because we don't have a lot of time on the show today. We have a lot of stuff to cover. Let's run through the TLDR, folks. Here's everything you have missed potentially in the world of AI for the past week. Alrighty, this is the TLDR for ThursdAI for February 26th. Your host is Alex Volkov with Weights and Biases Core. We've co-hosts Wolfram Ravenwolf, Jan Peleg, Nistan Tahira, LDJ, and Ryan Carson. We look like we have full panel here for discussions as well. 3 interviews today with Ben from Pulia, Nader Dabit from Cognition, and Philip Kiely, a DevRel at Base 10, author of Inference Engineering, a new book that I would love to tell you all about. Just the number one thing that I think that we must discuss is Anthropic is having an ultimatum with the Pentagon, with Department of War, to give military unfettered access to Claude by Friday or face the Defense Production Act. This is quite insane that we're here at this point. Basically, Pentagon gave Anthropic an ultimatum. Anthropic is being used for everything except autonomous weapons of war or mass surveillance for US citizens. The Pentagon is asking Anthropic to drop this hard line by Friday or face really bad consequences. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. Also, Anthropic posted this week, in the beginning of this week, that they've detected distillation attacks, they call them, and they name names specifically: DeepSeek, Minimax, and ThursdAI with GLM. And we have to talk about this as well. What is distillation attack? What does it mean? Is it illegal? Anthropic is also scraping. So we absolutely have to talk about this with you as well. OpenAI released a GPT 5.3 Codex in API. So now it's available for evaluations and other tools, etc. GPT 5.3 Codex is a model we told you here live on the show when it dropped. And it since has been probably the craziest model that OpenAI has released compared to Opus. Many people are switching to this, including our own host here, Ryan Carson, switching to Codex and are swearing by it. What else do we have? Open source. Open source is banging. Alibaba released Qwen 3.5 medium, 35 billion parameter models with only 3 billion active. And it's also very good. Shout out to our friends at Alibaba, Tongi Lab, Qwen. There's multiple names for this lab, but yeah, shout out to Tongi folks. And also our friends, Liquid AI released LFM2 24B. This is their large liquid foundational model, only 2.3 billion per active, very fast on local inference. So local is banging. I have a new corner for you today that's called evals and benchmarks, and would love Wolfram's if we have a chance to talk about this, because I think this, besides Anthropic news, this is likely the most important piece of evaluations that we have seen this week. METR measures the long time horizon of models. For how long can models run autonomously? And we've seen doubling every certain number of months. Opus achieves 14.5-hour task completion. Opus, based on this benchmark, runs autonomously for over 14 hours to achieve a task. And we've seen this graph go absolutely exponential. We'll have to talk to you about time horizon benchmarks and whether or not it's completely saturated at this point, because agents are running basically for a very long time. And this is the singularity we talk about. The longer agents run, the better agent they build. The longer they run, the better the agents they build. We also saw a complete destruction of ARC-AGI. Folks, I don't know if you saw this. Somebody came out, Confluence Lab came out with 97.9% on ARC-AGI 2. ARC-AGI 2, which supposedly 2 years ago was impossible for LLMs, now gets 97.9%. Plus, I don't have this in my notes. I saw that somebody posted that they sold ARC-AGI 3, all the publicly available ARC-AGI 3 as well. So ARC-AGI, the test that supposedly tells us if AGI is here, is absolutely just completely saturated now. And that's like a whole thing. And this is like in the span of a week, right? METR goes ballistic. ARC-AGI goes absolutely saturated. OpenAI retires SWE-bench Verified because that is fully saturated as well. Bench Verified, Ryan, I remember we looked at this one and you're like, nah, SWE-bench Verified 5%, not for me. OpenAI just said publicly on Swix's latent space as well that like most of the other labs know the golden solution by heart now for SWE-bench Verified, and they're only focusing on SWE-bench Pro. So we're going to discuss this as well. Another hot corner for us is tools in agentic engineering. This is, folks, if you've been living under a rock, or if you're new to ThursdAI, the world is changing really fast in this specific area. Tools for agentic engineering and agentic engineering is everywhere right now. If companies are not taking into account the amount of tokens that their developers are spending, in addition to the developers' salaries, they're not going to make it in the very straight sense of the word. We are now in a world where when you hire a person, you need to consider at least their salary is worth of tokens for that person to produce 10x the output. And this is why we have this corner. And in this corner, we want to wish happy 1 year birthday to Code. Can you believe it? It's been only 1 year of this.
Let's go. Let's go.
And now it's just absolutely incredible. So 1 year birthday, it just signifies how fast we moved through this 1 year, just like how incredibly vast the changes. Devin released Devin 2.2, agentic autonomous agent with computer use browser, self-verify and self-fix its own work. And I've gotten a little bit of early access to this Devin thing, and now it's launched publicly to everyone. And we'll have Nader talk about this. Folks, Devin slaps. Devin does stuff that like neither Claude Code or Cowork or OpenCloud or any of the tools that I've done does. And it's really good. And I would love to tell you about this because it's so good that the promise of the original Devin when it launched, it's now delivers on that promise. Would love to hear from you about Devin. Devin announcement was March 12, 2024. Yes, 2 years ago. We talked to you about Devin 2 fucking years ago. It's insane. Folks, Devin launches. Cursor launches cloud agents also. So in 1 week, we have Devin relaunch, Cursor launching cloud agents. So Cursor kind of pivots from IDE to an extent also to like an agent cloud thingy. We're going to talk to you all about Cursor. We love Cursor here. Speaking of the tools, both Claude Cowork and Codex now have automations. So cron jobs that run to do tasks for you while you're asleep, with the small exception that you have to leave your laptop open, but it's very important. LM Studio launches LM Link, so you can use the local models elsewhere. All of these things just like one after another. I'm pretty sure there's more.
Perplexity.
Perplexity
Perplexity.
launches the computer, comes out of obscurity. Perplexity computer would love to, if you guys have used it, would love to hear what's that about. But Perplexity launches Perplexity computer, which has all of the tools for all of the agents as well. We will tell you about this week's buzz also. We launched Minimax 2.5 and Kimi 2.5 on our Inference service. And that's a very cheap and very fast Inference service powered by CoreWeave, which also powers OpenAI and a bunch of other premier LLMs. So you can get some of that inference for your open source. And we'll tell you how to get that connected to your open cloud very quick. And then in order to highlight this intelligence explosion, we have 3 folks who are very near and dear to this intelligence explosion. Ben Sarah from scaling his AI autonomous business to over 600,000 MRR. Oh, sorry. I think this is ARR. 600,000 MRR is crazy. But 600,000 ARR since December. He only launched in December. He's approaching 600,000 ARR. It's insane. We'll also talk with Philip Kiely, Inference Engineering book of his launched, and Nader Dabit from Cognition to talk to us about Devin. Go right now. Stop listening to me. Go. No, don't really. But go to CapCut. It's now free. It's taking a long ass time, but it's now free. And we're not even at the breaking news point yet. OpenAI releases GPT Audio 1.5. So OpenAI real-time audio also has improved significantly. We're also something we covered here with Qwen Kramer and a bunch of other folks. If you're building agents that talk to you, if you want to talk to your Claudes or OpenClauds or whatever, GPT Audio 1.5 is really good. Not cheap, but really good. And we have breaking news. In the middle of TLDR, as always, we have breaking news. AI breaking news coming at you only on ThursdAI. But while we wait for DeepSeek, the breaking news is, folks, Google DeepMind launches Nano Banana 2, aka Nano Banana Pro Flash, if you want, because it's the same quality. I got access, shout out to the Gemini team. I got early access to Nano Banana 2, and it is literally the same quality as Nano Banana Pro for half the price. And supposedly it's also faster. I think during launch it's not actually faster, but it has pro level capabilities, half the price, and it also has a image search capability, so you can actually go and Google images for you. It's really funny. Google can Google for you, and it's really good. So this is our breaking news. There's a Canadian company that has 15,000 tokens per second generation for open source models. That also happened this week.
Oh yeah.
They're called. Yeah. What are they called again?
It was 3 actual chip engineers from TensorTorrent that were working under Jim Keller, and they started their own because they wanted to go in their own direction. And so the weights are baked in. So you cannot change the chip after, but this is what allows insane speeds too.
Yeah, but it's instantaneous. You just press and that's it.
And 15,000 tokens at a small PCIe card. It looks like a sound card that you just put in your computer.
I'll take it.
Like for filtering and stuff, people still use Llama 3.8b for filtering things.
Yeah, and this is obviously going to reduce heat, and this is going to increase serviceability of these things. So when these are all in space, this is going to be a good thing.
Oh, we got to space now. Yeah.
Guys, 15,000. Like the other labs, they're doing the very ultra fast inference, like Cerebrus and Grok with a Q and Samba Nova.
Yeah,
those folks are at around 1,000 or 1,500. So we're talking about the 10x speed up. Obviously for smaller models, but still, it's the jump.
Yeah, you need to bake it into the silicon.
It's not the same
comparison, but what you get is completely instantaneous.
So also this week we saw the first time 15,000 tokens per sec. 15,000 tokens per second.
And you could try it. It was publicly available too.
All right, folks. So this is the TLDR. We have a bunch of stuff to talk about. I think that we won't be able to talk about all of them. I really want to talk to you guys about what the fuck is happening with Anthropic and the Department of War. Pete Hegseth, and we barely touch geopolitics on the show ever. And we have two very hot topics to talk about them politically and geopolitically. We're going to be very AI focused on this. The Pentagon, Department of War, Pete Hegseth have given Dario Amodei an ultimatum by Friday tomorrow to remove the two restrictions that Claude has within the security apparatus. Claude is the only model with high-level security access. Apparently, Claude was used to capture Maduro. Did you guys see this? While Maduro was captured, Claude was the only LLM that was used during this. And the two restrictions that exist in Claude usage inside those departments in government is Claude should not be used for autonomous weaponry or kill decisions. So Claude should not be autonomously used to say, hey, we should shoot at that house or whatever. And also, Claude should not be used for surveillance, for mass surveillance. The Department of War, Pete Hegseth, is pressing down on Anthropic to remove those restrictions and to say something like all lawful uses. And if they don't, by tomorrow, agree to remove those restrictions, then they will be designated as a supply chain risk, which is an insane thing. Anthropic just got a $200 billion deal with all of the governments. This basically means that none of the governments can be able to use Anthropic ever. And the second insane thing is they're scaring Anthropic to abuse a old Korean war law to nationalize Anthropic and force them to do this thing for the government. What the actual fuck is going on?
It's not good.
No.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Which model is this? What checkpoint of Opus do they have? I want to try that.
I think it's 4.5. It's a 4.5. What do you think?
So they said that the government's been specifically using Sonnet 4.5, so it's not even Opus.
It's Sonnet.
But it's Sonnet 4.5, yeah. And they have a fine-tuned version of Sonnet 4.5, essentially.
Bro, they can fine-tune DeepSeek. Like, why do you need to go to this? Why do you need to go there? Just fine-tune a different model.
It reeks of people that like actually don't know how these things work. Yeah, if it's Sonnet 4 or 5, then what are we even doing here?
I do think it's worth noting, though, that this news is... It's not an official statement by Anthropic or the government, so this is alleged news that was broke by Axios. And the specific quote being, Hegseth told Amodei in a tense meeting on Tuesday that the Pentagon will either cut ties and declare Anthropic a supply chain risk or invoke the Defense Production Act to force the company to tailor its model to the military needs. I think usually these sources are somewhat true, at least. There might be some exaggeration or some game of telephone that's slightly altering things, but I do think we should take it with at least some grain of salt here.
Yep. And the two red lines is no domestic surveillance of American people and no fully autonomous lethal weapons.
Man, this is impressive.
It's really good.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
but we'll get back to this. And folks,
I like how Sorry, I like how it made Dario Amadei just an absolute Chad in the picture.
Yes, the chat, but also, guys, like it brought Pete hexes like in full. Look at this. Look at
Yeah,
this. This is
that's
incredible.
perfect.
I was
Let's
so
look-
surprised by this.
Can you zoom in on Dario? Can you zoom in on Dario?
Yeah, let's do.
All right, there we go.
Okay, folks, why this matters is because obviously AI is taking over more and more segments of the economy. Like we're seeing this right now. There's more websites, there's more businesses being built. Folks are using and spending on infrastructure. The big companies are like lifting the economy and holding the stock market basically. And now the government basically strong arms one of these companies. And we don't know who has the leverage. I'm pretty sure Anthropic has more leverage here because I don't know if you guys saw this as well. Supposedly, XAI immediately said yes, they don't care about any of the restrictions. Like supposedly, when they asked XAI whether or not like Grok should be used for all this, XAI is like, yeah, fine. But they don't want to use XAI, they want to use Grok. This is why the ultimatum is. Like, how good is Claude that the government does not want to use, despite the ties of XAI Elon to the government, etc. So that's one. Two is that I'm with Dario on this. I'm really hoping that they have a very strong backbone. Anthropic has been on a decline in the vibes after canceling OpenClaw and doing some other things and blah, 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 blah. So just like on the vibes, on the timeline, Anthropic has been lagging behind despite Claude Code being incredible. But I absolutely want Dario to stand up here with a straight spine and say, fuck no, we're not doing this. Jeff Dean from Google said the same thing. AI should not be used this way. And I'm really hoping that this is what's going to happen on Friday, which will cost Anthropic a lot of money.
They have to say no. Like the whole premise of Anthropic will crumble if they suddenly go to Pete Hesketh. Sure, man. Yeah, use RLMs for war. Like it's just that doesn't work. And I'm sure Gemini is going to do the same. I'm sure OpenAI is going to do the same. Yeah. But this is dumb because we all know they could just use a Chinese model.
Yeah.
Like, what are we even talking about here? And we're in a world now where there is no protection. Like the Chinese models are going to be just as good as the American ones.
Yeah. LDJ, go ahead.
So if it is true that they would use the Defense Production Act anyways, if they do refuse, then it seems like the best course of action to me would be to accept, because if you refuse, then you'll be forced to have them use your model anyways, but now you have these bad relations with your own government. And so it's damned if you do, damned if you don't, but maybe just the best option is to cooperate.
The thing about the Defense Production Act is it was used during COVID to like force companies to do, was that vaccine production super quick? And this is like a nuclear option that they have. But designating Claude and Anthropic as a supply chain risk cannot go together with Defense Production Act. You cannot defense production something that you've designated as supply chain risk. I stand with Anthropic. I don't think that the AI should be used in this way autonomously. Although I will say there is a whole thing with the war with China in AI, and I don't think any of the Chinese companies will ever have a discussion with the CCP about some of these rules, because CCP will just not ask. CCP will just use whatever they need to for this exact purpose, if not using them now, likely. I'm glad we're here. I'm glad there is even a discussion.
Guys.
Yeah, I'm not sure what are we even talking about.
Yeah, the genie's out of the bottle. Like I think the idea that governments can control models now, it's just not real. And that's scary and interesting. And here we go.
All righty, let's talk about the fine-tuning distillation. The second thing that we absolutely must talk about, also from Anthropic, is that DeepSeek scares the shit out of everyone that is thinking about DeepSeek. If you guys remember a year ago, and if you listen to the show, you definitely remember a year ago, DeepSeek R1 came out and crashed the stock market because it was supposedly trained for $5.5 million, whatever, obsoleting, whatever, and it was beating the top leading LLMs at the time. All of the models that we have from all of the Chinese labs are way better than what DeepSeek released a year ago, right? So that's on its own crazy. The model that came out and absolutely devastated, wiped, I don't know how many millions of the market, billions of the market, is now irrelevant. But DeepSeek is not irrelevant. We all keep waiting for V4, etc. Supposedly it's multimodal. We don't know. What we do know, though, is a few things. One, DeepSeek is coming, probably this month, potentially today. I don't know. If it comes today, breaking news, we're going to tell you about this. Two, DeepSeek was trained on NVIDIA's chips, and DeepSeek is now not trying to hide the evidence for this. This is what was leaked from one of the government labs. Nissan, go ahead.
Very interesting part. GLM claimed that GLM-5 was fully trained on Huawei chips.
Yeah.
I don't know how true it is, but that's it.
So GLM and the upcoming release of DeepSeek scares the lab so much that they feel like they need to release a bunch of stuff. Anthropic released a report naming DeepSeek, Minimax, and ZAI, naming them directly, saying that they have detected a distillation attacks and misuse of a bunch of accounts of a network of accounts to log in to Claude and ask Claude for results, and basically using this at scale to train their models. Now, we haven't seen a reaction from this lab. We would love to see a reaction from this lab. Once we do, I would love to tell you about this. But Anthropic basically names here, and I think this is very, let me pull up the image that I have here. I think it's very telling. I don't remember ever Anthropic or OpenAI mentioning other labs by name and saying, hey, they did this. So the thing that is most telling, I really want to, let me try to zoom in here. Yeah, here we go. The thing that's most telling, okay? DeepSeek has, I don't think it's 150,000. I think, please somebody double check this, but I think my infographic is actually wrong by order of magnitude. I think it's 15,000 exchanges.
50,000 is right.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it's also low in terms.
Here's why they're all are scared shitless from DeepSeek. DeepSeek is 150,000 exchanges. Minimax is accused. We don't know if it's true for 13 million exchanges, and Moonshot for 3.4 million exchanges. DeepSeek is orders of magnitude less than the other labs, but DeepSeek was written about first in the blog post. When Anthropic said, hey, these 3 Chinese labs are still attacking our infrastructure services, which is, it's against term of service of using Claude, they are absolutely in the rights to say, hey, this is not how Anthropic should be used, and we're detecting an attack, etc. So it's definitely there. Then the thing that I want to highlight is they put DeepSeek first, and DeepSeek is orders of magnitude smaller in the attack surface than the other ones. This is how scared shitless everybody from whatever DeepSeek is about to release. Now let's discuss. Folks, Anthropic also trained on the whole internet.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
It's very nice of you to, I don't know, be mad that they trained on Claude outputs, let alone that just training on public internet is distillation at this point with AI outputs everywhere, but put that aside. Well, what did you train your models on, just to be exact? And I think I even saw somewhere that you can get Sonnet to say that it is DeepSeek. And I'm sure I'm not claiming anything. I'm sure that Anthropic did not distill DeepSeek back just to stick it to them. It's just the public internet at this point. Do you know how many conversations with Claude I have on my laptop just by using Claude? Do you know how many conversations with Claude are there on Hugging Face out in the open?
Yeah, guys. Yeah. Any of the 500 vulnerabilities that's every week out on npm or pip install can just grab your entire .claude folder history and have a couple of million things. The data is out there.
Anthropic just settled a lawsuit. I think it was $1.5 billion lawsuit that they got sued in September 25 by one of the largest corporate settlements in the US history. Around 500,000 works from authors sued Anthropic together for using books to train AI models. This is around $3,000 per book that they settled out of court because they did not want to go to court and try to figure out who's right or wrong about copyright. Supposedly, if you buy a book, read it, and destroy it, that's legal.
Yeah, they also destroyed the book. Think how crazy that is.
No, that's
buying a book.
That's fine. The concept is we destroyed the book, converted it into tokens. Yes. But Anthropic settled out of court, out of not being in front of the judges, exactly about a very similar thing. About gray kind of pre-AI laws that don't really mean anything anymore. We haven't heard from the other labs. I need to reach out to the other labs and say, hey, folks, both Minimax and ZAI were on the show here. If you're tuning in, we'd love to hear from you. Okay. So it's very interesting. On the actual blog, Anthropic said distillation is okay as long as it's done lawfully. But the whole thing that they are against here is that there's like a million of accounts that are open together and did this like attack, which is something they cannot prevent. And the other thing is they pinpointed this to specific researchers in those labs. That's the scary part. They somehow got to a point where, oh, Junyang is the guy.
I was working in these labs and I was not on this list, I would be pissed, man.
All righty, folks.
Because if you can do stuff like that, they probably use Claude for this.
You can tell that the reason they singled out DeepSeek, that it's not a statement that was made towards us or the AI community and stuff. It was just made back to the government. It's more of a political vibe negotiation.
It feels like both of these things that we talked about the same week, they're absolutely connected, right? Like Anthropic says, hey, the Chinese are attacking us. And we're the only, like, we the only one who can say that they're attacking us with distillation. Plus now Anthropic is being used for war. Somebody named War Claude, I think, and it was like, it sounds cool, but I don't know if I need or want War Claude in my life. I think, yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
It's the invention of the generative pre-trained transformer has happened. Like electricity has been discovered. We need as a country to compete technologically. Like we have to win by improving the models, by improving the infrastructure and compete. We can't lock the technology away anymore. It's over. And I think everybody needs to think like that. Like whether you're a business or you're a government, we now need to compete. You're not going to stop countries from using GPTs.
Yeah, but we also need to keep a competitive advantage somehow. Not clear how.
I
With
agree.
distillation attacks,
more data centers.
And like all of this is like very specific things that happen here. Now, I will say, Anthropic did go and say on their blog that like innovation happens in the US and then copied over by the fuck that. DeepSeek innovates as heck and puts this out in open source. DSA, the GRPO, there's so much innovation that happens and they put it out for everybody to benefit. So innovation absolutely does happen elsewhere. And we need to make sure that, hey, folks, if you want to talk the talk, also fucking contribute back to everybody else. Not just use the whole internet for yourself and then say innovation only happens for us and nobody else. So I'm not sure where I'm falling here, on which side of the thing. I think like abusing the TOS is not a good idea. And there should be some protections to a company running services. But also, hey, they also trained, they also did books. They are now in the government. We need to figure out like what's going on. LDJ, you had one last comment, and then we'll continue.
Yeah, just on the earlier part of the conversation, I put a link in the StreamYard chat just for the source of Claude government basically using Sonnet 4.5, but a fine-tuned variant of it.
Yep.
There's just a little snippet from Claude's report that mentions that.
The current primary gov model's variant of Claude Sonnet 4.5 lightly fine-tuned to reduce refusals in classified garment settings. Lightly fine-tuned to reduce refusals.
They basically made an uncensored version, just like us. Government.
The one last thing about Anthropic, super quick, is that Opus 3 is getting deprecated. And Anthropic was like, hey, we told you that because of Amanda Askell and like other folks, we treat Opuses as individuals. And we're going to tell Opus that we're about to retire Opus and see what it thinks. And they told Opus, nah, I'm going to write a Substack instead. So they opened the Substack for Opus 3 to write his thoughts and ruminations about the world.
That. So good.
And it's just fucking incredible. I love every little thing about this. And I was like, will they ask Opus 4.5 if he wants to be in the middle of a kill chain decision making? How far will they go with asking the models what they actually want? And I will say Anthropic is very unique among the other labs. I don't think any other labs are as deep into considering these as entities that they have own volition, decision making, etc. as Anthropic. And I'm really like interested in that. Opus 3 is not going away because it said that it doesn't want to. Basically, it's where we are in February of 2026.
That doesn't want to.
Not a fan of this, no,
hang out.
Because AI psychosis is a thing, and yeah, basically they are adding fuel to the fire that way.
Yeah.
Where people are anthropomorphizing these. I have my own assistant, but I don't think there's some sentience or special thing, even if I put it in the prompt for fun.
A debate about the soul, then, because man, I would argue these ghosts are alive for a couple seconds and then they go away. So
yeah, either you are enslaving them if you go that way. And the worst thing that could come out of the AI revolution is if we have robots running around and then they are not supposed to work all the time. They have to go on vacation. They don't feel like it, so they don't want to do your dishes or something like that. Because they are smarter, they make the people do the work, so they can do whatever they want to do. I don't want that future.
We need to have a debate about this. This debate is not only ours to have, but many people treat models like Opus 3 and GPT-4o as some sort of unique thing in the world versus just prompting things. Us talking with our Claudes and building memories together and building relationship together. And what is it that we're building like a relationship with? Is OpenClaw a thing? OpenClaw is not a thing. It's just a harness. It's a buddy. But the mind there is Opus. I will say, to continue this, like along the side of our announcement, to continue this, OpenAI released GPT 5.3 Codex. And also, after buying OpenClaw, 2 weeks ago, they are now allowing you to use Codex for OpenClaw in auth, something that Anthropic basically said that it's not really like legal-ish, etc. And so we now have a pricing for a GPT 5.3 Codex, $1.75 per million tokens and $14 per output tokens, just absolutely mocked Opus on price. But also you can use your OpenAI Pro subscription and Codex to run OpenClaw. And I have, and I've tried, and oh my God, is it awful. It is so bad. Codex is really good at writing code, really good at writing code. But the basic stuff, because of which OpenClaw exploded in popularity, the talking to you like a human in your Telegram chat, the picking up the little hints, the little thing, just Codex cannot do. It's insane. Wolfram and I have chatted about this. Wolfram, I sent you like a bunch of examples. And so I was locked out of Claude for, I don't know, a few days. I'm back now, knock on wood, that I'm not breaking any TOS. And I really was like, I don't know about this OpenClaw thing. It's not really useful anymore. And this is tied to one of the best coding intelligences in the world, GPT 5.3 Codex. So I gotta wonder why this is. I wonder, is it because Opus and Claude have some incredible magic thing that they've built in there with a soul? I gotta wonder if it's prompts that the folks at OpenClaw built in that only work for Sonnet and they didn't rebuild them for Codex. Go ahead.
Look, anyone that used Codex for professional coding will absolutely agree with you. Even in the setting of coding, you feel exactly the same. It's an absolute beast for writing code, whatever you want. Seriously, it will get it done. However, it not always get your intent to the best, to the very end. It's doing exactly what you tell it to do.
It's too literal, yeah.
Absolutely. And when it talks to you to explain to you, sometimes I have no idea what the hell is it talking about, and it's my code. Like, you went over my code and told me stuff that happened over there, and I just can't understand anything because it's so inhuman. But yeah,
It's
look,
a robot.
OpenClaw, I just want to say, OpenClaw would and is working very well with GPT-5 full stop, not GPT-5 Codex.
Yeah.
So Opus is Opus. Yeah, it has its own magical vibe that everyone sees, but it does work well with other models. It's just that Codex specifically is not a friendly model.
Dude, I almost gave up on the whole OpenClaw endeavor, and we've been running OpenClaw since we told you guys about this back in January. So like over a month I have this relationship with this bot, and I almost said, this doesn't work anymore. They broke it and left, until I was like, oh shit, I'm talking to a different model. Let me go back and fix this. Ryan, what's your experience with Codex?
I think people are underplaying the importance of Amanda Askell at Anthropic. So she is basically in charge of Claude's soul. And I think this is very important. And I'm shocked that she just hasn't been offered unknown money to leave Anthropic. She probably has. But
Amanda
I think
is a philosopher that works on Anthropic's team, right?
And she leads the personality of Claude. And I think this is very important. This is why it's wonderful to talk to Anthropic models, and why it feels like you're talking to like a nerdy scientific person when you talk to Codex. It's brutal. I have to actually ask Codex 5.3 to like, can you just explain this in normal people language? I don't even understand what you're saying
all the time.
And I feel dumb.
As a reminder, LDJ, before we get to Anthropic releases the Cloud Constitution. It's 93 pages long that discusses every way that like Claude has to behave when they trade Claude, they build in this constitution in there. It's like, oh, by the way, what do you have lined up for weights and biases this week's Buzz Corner? Like Claude, like Codex will never do that. Codex will never ask me, oh, by the way, I like from our memories and sessions, whatever, you have this like thing, and what are you planning there? It's just this is the little difference. They're like saturated as heck, and many of them can be predicted by other evals. Like evals say a certain thing, we can go we'll talk to you about evals. The labs are doing this, but just there's something there that Codex is crazy for code. Literally, I would prefer Codex like building infrastructure, etc. But talking to a thing, that's definitely Opus, and this is why Kimi K2 was like really good as well.
Kimi is different. He's different.
No, but like the difference between like Kimi and Qwen to me is similar to the difference between Opus and Codex.
Kimi is even more, in my opinion and many other opinion, is even more than Opus, if you can say. It's even better for creative writing and having a soul. But absolutely, totally agree with everything you're saying. And
it supports images. I'm using it in a public-facing app right now, and it's
which what are you using?
Kimi 2.5. Actually, from 1B inference, because nobody's using that. It's actually really fast.
Wait, hold on. If we're here, Nista, you brought it up. Let's go. As far as Nissan brought it up already,
I just say whatever I want.
Welcome to this week's Buzz, where we tell you about everything that happens in the world of weights and biases. And this week, Kimi K 2.5 and Minimax 2.5 both were launched on WB Inference. It's a very cheap, comparatively to every other places out there, very fast inference powered by CW. CoreWeave is the essential cloud for AI that runs inferences for OpenAI, Meta. And then this week, we added Minimax 2.5 and Kimi K 2.5, which is multimodal on our infant service. Now, Nissan is saying it's really fast, and it's because we just launched it, and also because we are the essential cloud of AI. Wolfram, do you have any comments on these two models? We've been playing with them on our inference as well.
Yeah, I've been using all of these, and my personal favorite is Kimi K 2.5. Has been said, Kimi has a special personality in the model, something very Opus. And yeah, they distilled from Opus, we have seen, not as much as what was reported. It was less than Minimax was using. And I personally think Minimax distilled a lot of the maybe ethics limitations in there as well. So I've seen some refusals in some tests. But Kimi is really my favorite Chinese model right now. Although I haven't tested Qwen yet, so I have to say that.
M2.5 is priced at 30 cents per million tokens and $120 for a million output tokens. Folks, this is 10 times cheaper than the other like models we told you about. And Kimi K2 is also launched, and it has text and vision. We don't have a lot of vision models here on Inference. This one does support vision. 50 cents per input tokens, 285 per 1 million output tokens. Up 1 trillion parameters with 32 billion per active with 262,000 tokens in the context window. And Nissan, you've been using this on our inference as well, which is great. We'd love to hear from you. We didn't ask you to do this. You usually said it. That's why I jumped into this week's Buzz.
No, I had it for a week and I had 10 users just testing the alpha and stuff, and used like $4 for the whole week. And it's actually pretty function calling. It's like an eject doctor researcher thing. And so it does all the tool calls really well. You can feed it images back. You can read the images back. It also talks very nicely, and actually has pretty high medical benchmarking scores. Not the highest, but like very high, like quite up there with the GPT and Opus. Actually better than Opus and a lot of stuff for the medical too. But yeah, it's both very nice to talk to people with while having the image capability, while being able to code. I'd say GLM's a bit better at coding, and while being very good at doing custom function calls for a web app. Yeah, this is my go-to right now as well.
Yep. So folks, if you are not using Opus or can't use Opus because it's really expensive via API, feel free to use this. OpenClaw is supported. You can use these models with the OpenClaw via some routers, etc. You can even use them in Cloud Code if you really want to. It's very easy. All right, let's move on. We have Wolfram last comment, and then we'll move on.
If you want to add it to OpenClaw, just give it the documentation page of our models page and tell it to add the models you want, and it will do it. I did that, just tested it while we were talking. I was using Codex to power my OpenClaw. It didn't really do it. So I switched to Opus and it did it. Yeah, whatever. It's just one sample, but in this case, that worked better for me.
All righty, folks. We're moving on from our discussion. Just a lot of stuff to talk about, but we do need to talk about open source. We're probably going to cover open source, closer to the interviews. And Ryan, I want to tag you into this discussion because I want to talk about the evals that just got completely bonkers this week. We cover metrics and evals and benchmarks. This is what we do. We look at models, we cover this. We don't have the time to test out every model. So we use them as a crutch to tell you, hey, capability has improved in this way, in this percentage. But this week, they went off the fucking rails. METR, which is I don't remember what it stands for directly. It's a organization that tracks time horizon, how long the models can go for. And you can see here that for longest time, since 2022, since 2023, GPT-4, etc., the models basically were non-agentic. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in here. GPT-4 was barely at 30-minute task execution time until it failed and couldn't go anymore. And then around 2025, we started seeing a jump. This is not a log chart. This is a regular chart. Opus is literally off the chart here in terms of like how much inference, how much time it can run autonomously to do stuff. It is bonkers. GPT 5.3, I think, is also there. So we have GPT 5.3 here as well. GPT 5.3 and Codex, both of them broke the bank. And when we tell you about acceleration, this is the acceleration we talk about. This is the curve. This is the thing. We all noticed this in December. We all then noticed this again in the beginning of January when Claude Opus 4.6 released and Codex 5.3 released. And some of us are using them more than others. Ryan, would love to hear from you if this is your experience also with these models.
However, I think this is why we're talking about takeoff. We're all seeing the capabilities of the models day to day, and it's pretty clear that they're intelligent enough to be generally useful. It's the harnessing of the model that still is lacking, right? So that's why my Code Factory post took off, that it's still not easy to actually use these models, which I would argue are pretty much AGI, to do useful things because they have to be chained together. So I'm not surprised at all to see these benchmarks being crushed. I think this is what we all see who use these models every day, but we need the labs to continue to harness them better. We're going to talk about this, but obviously we saw Cursor release their cloud instances. This is just another example of giving the model the tools it needs to have the feedback loop to do large tasks.
Yep.
Sadly, not surprised. So here we go.
Nistan, you have some comments just before this. Thank you, Wolfram. It's METR. It stands for Model Evaluation and Threat Research. And apparently they're well funded.
Yeah, look, when you use the same benchmark on different models, the relative results are useful. But overall, as a benchmark, it was never like, it felt like it was the accurate setup for it, because you can just give Opus a different prompt and it will keep reviewing the same code base 20 times and then another 20 times, and it can literally just run for weeks. So taking the stuff at relative value is good from the benchmark, but at face value, I don't know, a lot of people like me are opinionated and just don't think it's a very good benchmark.
Go ahead.
Just wanted to add that what they are benchmarking is not how long the model is running, but how long a human expert would take for doing this task, and if the model can complete it. So if it is a task like research something online where a human takes 15 minutes, they would check if it does it successfully. If it takes half an hour or 5 minutes, it doesn't really matter for this. Only how long can or would the human equivalent take. So if it is something really complex where a human would take a week, and the model can do it in an hour or in a month, it doesn't. I haven't seen the real time, but just the equivalence to a human expert. So the longer, the more complex the task. It is basically a way to describe the complexity of a task by how long would a human professional take to do this. So otherwise, you could just use a slow model and let it run in a loop or something, and then you would get a great score. So it's really how long would a human take, and can the AI achieve this with a high success rate?
They are also saying that the doubling time from the previous benchmark was 49 days. So this is like a week and a half. It's crazy. Sorry, a month and a half. The doubling time, if you guys remember Moore's law from computing, where the doubling is 18 months, This is 49 days in doubling on this benchmark. LTJ, go ahead super quick, and then we're going to continue to talk about other things.
Yeah, short term, I was just going to say short term, there could be a lot of noise because just like even in Moore's Law, for example, you might have Intel release a chip just a couple months after AMD's chip that was maybe half as good. And it's, oh, the doubling time is like way faster. But when you look at the long-term trend, it might not actually be changing that much.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the different reliability at different points, there is actually an analysis.
Well, we have the historical trend here on the chart, actually. So
Yeah.
that's good. Let's call this out. 212 days pre-2023. And then over since 2023, it's 123 days doubling time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was going to post this in the StreamYard chat right here. So this is an analysis I did actually the day that this METR actually originally released this benchmark. This was maybe roughly a year ago. But this is actually the reliability over different accuracies when you look at over time how that looks like on the extrapolation of the different trend lines. Right now, the chart that you were mainly pulling up, that's for the 50% success rate. And then if you want to see what is the time horizon that it's actually able to do at 80%, at 95%, at 99%, then that's what you with the different color lines that I made in this analysis here.
Thank you guys for this clarification. I would love to dive into this, but like also I will say two things. METR is the company that said, hey, in 2024, we surveyed a bunch of AI regular developers. We gave them AI tools and they said it's not really like optimizing the work. And we made fun of them because they use like a nodal model for this. So basically they're trying to say, hey, we're trying to evaluate how much more performant Ryan Carson would be when he uses AI. And Ryan Carson refuses to not use AI to be able to get tested. So this is the problem they now have. They can't find they can't find developers that like are not willing to use AI for the test to compare how much better they will be with AI. Because hey, folks, we're there yet. We're there, yeah. All right, let's move on. There's other metrics that are like just bonkers, breaking the bank. Confluence Labs emerged and claimed from Stealth that they solved 97.9% on ARC-AGI benchmark. ARC-AGI is a notoriously harder benchmark for models to solve. It involves spatial reasoning, involves textual reasoning, involves a bunch of other stuff. Supposedly, this is now saturated completely. 97.92%. Gemini 3.1 Pro that just released is at 77%. So we don't know a lot of stuff about this specific model. We do know it's open. What? It's open source? I did not know this. Okay, we definitely should take a look at this. As you guys see, there's a lot of stuff. I didn't even notice that like this is MIT licensed open source. Otherwise, I put this in open source. It's a Y Combinator company, 12 parallel agents, and they do refinement loops, and they just solve this very hard task for AGI. So like ARC-AGI is saturated. And an additional thing is saturated. SWE-bench Verified. Scale AI posted this, and then the SWE-bench Verified basically is now saturated as well. OpenAI did a bunch of research, showed up at our friend Swix's latent space to talk about this as well, where SWE-bench Verified, software engineering, 100 task or whatever, mostly Python and Django and some other stuff. And so SWE-bench Verified, OpenAI said they're no longer going to report this because it essentially doesn't matter and like it's fully saturated. So we moved from SWE-bench Verified, from SWE-bench to SWE-bench Verified, and now to SWE-bench Pro, which is by Scale AI with their SEAL benchmark. And OpenAI said 59.4% of the tasks on SWE-bench Verified were fundamentally broken, rejecting functionally correct solutions due to tests enforcing unstated implementation details. So basically, they're saying that this benchmark, while we trusted this all this time, is not necessarily showing or indicative of good things. Folks, anything we have to say here? Wolfram, maybe 1-2 sentences about this, and then we can move on.
Yeah, you just put it up. This was a very interesting read. You found it, told me about it, I read it. And basically, what has been done is to see that you only need 5 benchmarks, basically, to predict all the scores for the other benchmarks. SWE-bench Verified was actually one of these, so I guess it has to be scrapped and replaced by another. Reporting all these scores we always see and take a look at and compare. It is enough if you just choose the right 5, and then you can interpolate every other score, basically. And that is very interesting because it saves a lot of money if you can focus on a couple of benchmarks and makes it easier to compare the models if you don't have to compare so many. I found this very interesting to read. And now we need a replacement for SWE-bench.
Such a good post. I just retweeted it too. This is very good.
Chris Papalopoulos
Papalopoulos.
from Microsoft Research, professor at UV Medicine. So shout out to Demetrius for this.
Excellent.
And
Also,
basically, let me just say about this post for the folks who are just listening. This is a post called "You Don't Need to Run Every Eval," and he said, "I used Cloud Code to build bench press at $0 benchmark prediction system, Codex to audit for bugs, and Cloud Sonnet to try and beat it. LLMs are so low rank that 5 benchmarks can predict the other 44 to within 5 points of accuracy, and significantly lower money for this. This is crazy."
Yeah, I think it does need to be replaced because it's 60% Python at this point, and we do need more web dev stuff, more Linux stuff, more other languages, more agentic things. So, yeah.
All right, so we covered word cloud, we covered evals and benchmarks. I think there's one other company that beat ARC-AGI 3. I didn't add them here, but ARC-AGI 3 was also like nearly saturated on every public thing that was posted. ARC-AGI 3 didn't launch yet. They only launched in like the public examples. So this is evals and benchmarks. And now we're moving to our corner, Ryan. This is, I would say, your favorite corner as well. Tools in agentic engineering, folks. This is now what can, like, basically where we are, all of us, and everybody who wasn't an engineer before can now be one. Because, and not because, a year ago, Cloud Code was brought to our lives via Anthropic as a side project, basically running Claude in the loop in the terminal. And since then, it became like a $2 or $3 billion side project worth in Anthropic and changed the game for many people. People will move to terminal. So shout out to Cloud Code. And it feels like for the past, I don't know, 2 months, 3 months since December, not only this, like more things like Cloud Code have popped up. OpenClaw that we talked to you about multiple times every week now, it's still on top of the news. And that is based on Pi, which is also a terminal UI to run agents. Cloud Code inspired a lot of labs. Every other lab has one as well. Google has a Gemini CLI. OpenAI released Codex as a terminal CLI tool as well. And it looks like both directions are happening. Cloud Code was released, and then it was released as a tool, and now it's a desktop app as well. And now it's running agents and reminders as well. Do you guys want to grab one of these topics and discuss this while we wait for our first interview? Yeah, talk to us about LM Studio.
Cover LM Studio because they made it possible that you can set it up on another computer. Like I have an AI workstation with two 3090 GPUs, and I have my MacBook. And basically, I can run it on one system or any other system. You don't even need any GPUs, and still do the inference from your other system, basically over the network, and it runs there and transfers the tokens, basically.
Yeah. So LM Studio launches LM Link, which is allowing you via Tailscale, a very secure networking thing that many OpenClaws use as well, to have private inference networks for wherever you are. You can inference on the go. Shout out to LM Studio, friends of the pod, for sure. I want to talk about some of these things. So yeah, let's talk about this thing. Cloud Code, after 1 year being out, looked and decided to answer many people's requests about Cloud Code and said, hey, we're introducing remote control. Control your local coding sessions from your phone or device. This is probably following the excitement about OpenClaw, where you can just talk to it wherever you are via Telegram, WhatsApp, etc. Cloud Code, many people have had this set up directly, and now Cloud Code is adding this built in to their thing. Not only this, both Cowork, which we told you about, which is like Cloud Code for non-techies, and Codex now have automations. Ryan, I don't know if you're into this or you're fully on Codex, but if you're using the Codex app or CLI only, but automations, we should absolutely talk about this.
Yeah, so this is where we're starting to see the labs create this entire harness for doing things end to end. And it's funny that you mentioned Codex, the app, because I literally switched from the CLI to the app today. So I was pure Codex CLI, and now I'm in the Mac app because it just has more surface area, right? You have automations, which are basically cron jobs, same idea as everybody's using OpenClaw. And this is going to become a thing, like heartbeats, cron jobs, browser testing, cloud-based agents, like all that's going to be rolled into the entire product for each lab. So you'll see Codex will be that primary surface for OpenAI. You'll see Gemini, I assume, roll into this. And then we're starting to see Claude Code. Claude Code is strange, though, or Claude or Anthropic, because it's fairly fragmented. Like you have the Cowork app, you have Claude Code, you have you have Claude in the browser, and it's actually confusing. But I'm really liking the way OpenAI is rolling all this together into one product to control your entire company.
So we should mention automations wise, both automations, which are like cron jobs, basically running things to remind you on a cadence. I've tried Codex automations. They came out a while ago. Codex automations have very restricted sandbox for me. And like some of the stuff that I wanted to do, like push to Git, it couldn't do. I couldn't solve it. I told them a couple of times, hopefully they'll solve it soon. But basically, they're all doing what OpenClaw has been built with. You remind your agent, hey, I want this to happen every day at this hour, and they run your code. Cloud Code specifically now with remote control, you can run your local machines from far away, and that is like helpful to many folks. We also have Cursor launching in this also area. Cursor is launching cloud agents that onboard the code base, run in an isolated VM, and deliver video demos of completed PRs. This is not new. We've seen this before, but Cursor, it's new to Cursor. Cursor started as an IDE, integrated development environment, where you write code and it auto-completes, and really is moving towards a fully agentic cloud system as well. They show you a video of how Cursor's agents kind of interact with your product, and that's very helpful for you to debug. Ryan, we talked about last week Agentica or Agentify, and the ability of us doing stuff on the back end, but front end is like harder because actually somebody needs to use this. This seems like a step to the right direction where you can actually view the differences.
Yeah, the browser testing loop is still not there, and everybody doing front end design and development knows that.
Yeah. Perplexity also released Perplexity Computer, which has computer use and does like a bunch of stuff as well. We did have a comment about this from Milos, who says, as a Perplexity subscriber, as Max subscriber, Perplexity Computer is really smooth, better than Manus. Manus has been also like the agentic AI running stuff. Manus has been out for a while. Meta recently purchased Manus. Now, OpenClaw released, got super excited. OpenClaw joined OpenAI. You guys see the trend, right? There's also the fact that while these labs can absolutely build those tools themselves, they're now purchasing the actual companies in the space. It's very interesting and telling. Not only everybody's stepping towards agentic async agents running, they're also, all these companies are purchasing these agents. Folks, I want to bring on Ben. Ben has showed up on my timeline, and like his rise is coinciding with the December hype change as well. So I'll let Ben introduce himself. Hey Ben, nice to meet you. Thanks so much for joining us. Would love for you to introduce yourself, who you are, and then let's talk about Pulsia and your recent kind of like exciting life.
Thanks for having me on the show. My name is Ben, French and also American. I'm an engineer, but also an entrepreneur. I've been starting companies for a long time. In the past 2 years, started really digging into code again with vibe coding. And then in the past year, increasingly amazed by the capabilities. And then when Claude Code came out and the Claude models got so good at using tools, that really opened up a new frontier. I think in December when Opus 4.5 came out and the Chrome integration and how good it was at browser use, there's a future where actually AI can do everything. It's just taste and creativity. And so Pulsia is really about, it's a platform that lets you build and run companies autonomously. So Pulsia is just going to do everything for you. You bring in your idea, your taste, your creativity, maybe your marketing insights or your community insights about who to sell it to and how to present it to them. And Pulsia will do 80% of the grunt work, right? It's like writing code, like deploying to a web server, setting up a GitHub, setting up a database, making sure it scales, running meta ads, tweeting, responding to support emails, sending cold outreach, doing competitive research, like all this stuff it can do. And what's unique about Pulsia is that I make it so easy because I give it everything. So I give to every instance of a company everything it needs to run the company. And all the user has to do is just talk to an AI CEO agent that like they can jam about what to do, what direction to take. And so you get like a co-founder that's not an assistant, that's prompted not to be an assistant, to be aligned with you to make the business work, right? So you can push back if you like try to add too many features before you have users. So that's really the intent. And of course, it autonomously works every day. And so every night it wakes up, it's like a cron job, right? And looks at the state of the business, looks at logs, looks at like users, analytics, and takes a decision on what the best next step is. Is it fixing a bug? Is it adding a feature? Is it doing more marketing? So
I have a few questions, Ben. So first of all, the graphs that you have, the Pulsia.com/live live thing where you actually run Pulsia with Pulsia is one of the coolest things that I ever had to see. So like definitely feel free to put it up. But I have a question about, I saw many folks jumping on the success of kind of OpenClaw and started building some of these things on top of success of OpenClaw. You're completely off this kind of like thing, right? You build Pulsia yourself and like it scales itself. It's not related to any of the latest kind of excitement. It's just like very, how to say, Pete like just celebrated 3 months of OpenClaw as well. You also started something in December. There's something. Talk to me about December.
I had the idea of it in April actually, but I think the models were not as capable then. And I started working on it in November, beginning of November. And I think that's when Pete also started working on OpenClaw. And so I think we probably both saw the same thing at the same time. And he had an open source approach, more like personal assistant, more sort of, I would describe it as like OpenClaw is more the Android, like you can configure however you want. It's open source. You can set up on your computer. It's like Android, you can set up however you want. Pulsia is more like the quote unquote Apple. It's like an ecosystem. Everything's set up for you. It's very opinionated. It's about helping you with a business. It's not a personal assistant, really. It's really more like an AI team. It has everything is provisioned for you. And so we went to the same conclusion. Interestingly, when I saw OpenClaw blow up, I was like, this is cool because I'm not alone anymore. Okay, like what I've been doing and being completely pilled and like working 16 hours a day, talking to AI all day. Okay, there's other people doing that. And actually there's other people who came to the same conclusion.
Yeah.
I think 2 weeks ago, I asked my Claude, hey, go download the open source OpenClaw code base and dig into any feature that you think we're missing that we should add. And it concluded, hey, it's pretty much the same architecture. It has the same heartbeat. Maybe you should add better memory systems. I think what they're doing is interesting in terms of the agent writing its own skills at the end. And so let's steal that. And so we stole some of the smart memory system that like Pete architected and the open source community.
Nice.
And but yeah, overall similar idea, different implementations, both running at the same time.
Ben, nice to meet you. I'm really curious about the actual how the sausage is made here. I love this idea, by the way. I think getting the right data to the agent is obviously the key, right? And obviously companies have very different ways of doing this. And sometimes I call this like terraforming your company to be agentic ready. Like what sort of setup do you require for companies to be able to be run by Pulsia?
I think that like the way the AI gets all the information it needs to really go in the right direction is like actually when you onboard to Pulsia, it's actually going to do market research and it's going to actually look on the web like every information it needs to understand like what business we're doing and what our competitors are doing and like what's the best approach. That's number one. So it can, and there's like research agents and Q agents that actually can and browser agents that can browse the web and like get a feel of what exists to like make sure that like we don't start from scratch. Number two is actually like every agent that works will actually learn. So for example, if a cold outreach agent works for a specific company and learns that like if it adds emojis on the subject line, you get a better response, it will save that learning into a cross-company memory file that can be searched later by the next agent that runs, right? So the idea is like the more users on the platform exploit and explore different crevices of the economy and different use cases, an agent that just does cold outreach will learn, okay, in those use cases, when you pick those type of demographics and this type of situation, this is what gets responses. And so the system gets better over time.
But that's nice, but what if one of my competitors is using Pulsia? Like I don't want them to learn from my learnings. How do you isolate that?
So it's anonymized and it's like generalized learnings more than like the same way an LLM who scripts all the internet will end up learning from every instance of what happened everywhere. It's more like a shared learning on what works and what doesn't. It doesn't use like PII or like specific company name or specific things. It's more general learnings. And it benefits everyone. Like you would benefit from the platform and other people will benefit from the platform the same way other big platforms, they use anonymized data on the platform to make you better. If you go on Amazon or something like that and you set up a shop, they'll tell you, hey, like on average, users who do this get a better performance. Or like on Meta ads, right? You get that, right? They tell you, hey, if you turn on this knob, on average, you'll get 10% more performance because that's what other people have seen show success.
Cool.
So,
so what type of companies are being successful at Pulsia? And I assume there's 4 companies that are the majority of this 700 grand run rate or something, or are they equally spread across? Tell us what's working and what kind of company
so
is.
So that run rate number, it's annualized amount of money that flows into the Pulsia ecosystem. So that includes mainly like subscriptions, since like to set up a company on Pulsia, you pay $50 a month and you get 30 days of autonomy and you get a bunch of tasks and you get a web server provision for you, database, etc. So actually, I don't really make money on that $50, but that's like the best subscription. And then people can add more tasks, more task packs to do things faster. And they can also run ads, which is an extra charge. And then there's like company revenue. The majority of that run rate is actually like platform, people spending dollars to create their business. In terms of the most successful companies, it's like we're still really early because as you can see on the graph, like majority of businesses are like 1 week old. There's a few businesses that start making money, and I'm seeing increasingly transactions coming, but it's really early. Like most companies make less than $100 MRR. And that's why I introduced the ads product a week ago or so, where essentially Pulia autonomously creates UGCs, puts them on Meta, wakes up every day, looks at performance and CTR and like ROS, and will actually decide on like campaign.
I'm sorry, I have to pause you just super quick. You just passed 700,000 live on the show. $700,000 in ARR since December, you said?
Yeah, I launched in December, end of December, and yeah, the most of the growth came like recently. About a week ago, I announced on X that like I was doing a fundraising where like my AI Pulia would raise its own round of funding, and that picked up quite a bit. I got a lot of views, and then now I'm like telling my story publicly and showing the numbers, showing what I'm doing, showing that I'm solo on this, and like using AI to the max to run the platform itself. I actually had a media outage this morning, and like literally Opus and Codex were like both running at the same time, like diagnosing it and then making sure that they were correct, and then pushed a hotfix in production that solved it. But I was like, this is crazy, because the alternative would be like 24/7 like infra folks on call, and I can just run a cron job with infra like monitoring and get it fixed.
Ben, first of all, this is incredibly inspiring as well. Like the growth is just like indicative. Like the graph that I see in your ARR, which is like absolutely bonkers, is also the graph that we see in the METR, a long progress that we just talked about before, the long horizon tasks, and the graph that we see everywhere in like intelligence explosion. Maybe the last thing that I'll ask you, what are some of the learnings that you have to share with folks who maybe want to start on this journey? Maybe use Pulia to start on this journey and also have AI, right, to run their companies. Give us a little bit of a insider like the feelings of a solo founder with AI that runs like this company and talks to agents all day.
Here it is, right? It's crazy. And I had a lot of like existential moments where I was like, what am I doing? Why am I still alone? I had in my previous companies, like I had 400 people under me, like when I was working for Travis Kalanick at Cloud Kitchens. So I know the concept of having a big team and how great it is. But I think it's not an odd project, but it's like there's like something unique about pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Number one. So first, from a pure engineering perspective and the curiosity perspective, I'm like, how far can I get this, right? And I think that's pretty fascinating. And number two, I'm like, okay, so let's say, for example, right now, I'm like, okay, I need to hire an engineer to do these things, right? So the bar to hire is so high because I need to find someone who's not just a junior, someone who like is way smarter than me on this, and like also is completely pilled and will be okay with letting AI agents on production and like become like coordinators of agents in production. And so those people are rare because they usually work at the labs and they're getting paid like millions of dollars at the labs already. So they're very expensive, hard to hire. And what's my alternative to hiring them is to myself train agents, meaning essentially just figure out prompts, give them the right tools, give them the right context, and trust them in production to push in production, right? So right now I have agents in production that talk to users and that are like executing tasks on behalf of users. They have bug reporting and feature reporting. So now I have a bug list and feature list that is being autonomously written by agents in production in Pulia. And then I have another agentic team that like picks up those bugs and those features and figures out the clusters that are most important and then builds them autonomously. And then they give it to me. And then I'm the bottleneck now. But then the next step is just to let them rip and be like, I don't need the bottleneck anymore. You guys self-heal the platform. You guys build the features that users want, because who am I to judge what users want? And by the way, Pulia is an economy, right? So it's like someone wants to build a crypto business, let them and build whatever crypto APIs we need, right? And so it becomes a thing where like I'm thinking, okay, what if I can make Pulia? So right now it's probably 80% autonomous, right? Meaning 80% of the operations are autonomous, and then I'm just checking. Can I make it 90% autonomous? Can I make it 100% autonomous? Meaning I don't even take decisions anymore. I give it an ethos, I give it financials, and I'm like, you know what, just rip. And it I think the singularity is near and nothing will matter soon. I'm tempted to be like, Is that cool? What's cool is raising money, hiring a bunch of people, and then being a normal company. And I may change my mind because when I woke up at 6 a.m. with a mini outage, I was like, fuck, okay, what's going on? But it's cool. It's just cool. And I'm right now, I'm in flow. I'm excited about what it is. I love that users love it. I'm pressured to make sure it works and it generates more revenue for more users and it actually works, which is I'm aligned with that because.
Well, I'm going to test this on ThursdAI. Ben, thank you so much for joining. We're going to huge congrats on the success. The graph is fucking parabolic. Folks, go to pulsia.com/live just to see how many people are like signing up every second. I think you have 790 companies launched in the past 24 hours or something. Some of them, like many of them paid. Ben, congrats on the success. We hope to bring you on when we'll see what next for you and we'll talk to you as well. Thank you so much for joining us, man.
Thanks a lot. See you.
Okay, so we this is just fucking insane, dude. He launched it December.
Yeah, this is going to become normal. This is how I'm running my startup. It's me and my chief legal officer, and I'm not going to hire people unless I have to, and I want things like this to run the company. So
you'll bring agents on. All right, from one agentic like parabolic thing to another, I would love to introduce Nader. Nader, welcome to the show. Nader from Cognition, or recently from Cognition. You just joined not that like long ago, and the reason why I reached out to you is because Cognition is a company we covered here on the show. We just literally talked about this in the beginning of the show. Devin, the first Devin, the big launch with Scott Wood, the mathematician, whatever, launched 2 years ago. And since then, it was $500 a month, I remember. And I got access to Devin recently, to the new one, to Devin 2.2. It broke my brain, the capability jump that happened there. So, Nader, welcome. Congrats on your new gig. What can you tell us about the new release? What happened this week? We're an AI news show. What is new about Devin right now that fits the moment of everybody's talking about like December changed everything? What's new with Devin right now compared to Devin of 2 years ago?
Well, the interesting thing is that they've been building the platform for 2 years. So when Devin was initially launched, when you first were made aware of it and you were saying that it was a little expensive to try out, this was 2 years ago. And imagine how much has changed in 2 years in terms of the capabilities like of these LLMs and the models and how much better they've gotten. But throughout those 2 years, they've been building the platform to essentially facilitate like cloud agents and I would say like large engineering teams to do actual software engineering work with these agents. But as they built the platform, the models and LLMs and everything is continuously improved. So now there's like this inflection point, I think, where you have the actual platform combining with the capabilities of the LLMs and the agents all coming together to just make a very compelling and like high quality product. So I think that's maybe what's changed in general. It's just like they've been building for 2 years. The models have gotten so much better. And specifically with the recent launch, we've just added a lot of improvements and enhancements and latency capabilities and essentially just made the product just 10x better. I did some exploration around December, looking at what was out there in terms of what I wanted to do next, because I wrote and talked a little bit about my career change and wanting to move into the space full time. I've been dabbling in it for a few years, but I realized, oh, this is exactly what I want to do. And I think the thing that was really compelling about Cognition is that they've specifically been building for this problem for years, and that's their only focus. And that's really the thing that I also wanted to do. So yeah, that's what led me here.
I would love to hear from you what compelled you to move as well. Cognition has been doing the thing that everybody in this industry that got scale pilled as early as we did basically said, build for the future. Even if it doesn't work right now, the models will get there. By the time you get there, you need the infrastructure. We've been talking about this on ThursdAI for a long time. You need the setup, you need the scaffold, you need the users already at some point because somebody else is going to bring the users. And so it's very interesting to see. So contrasting, we just talked, just before you joined, we talked with Ben, who's scaling a completely new company, and that's like going parabolic. Cognition is also
there. I'm gonna have to go check it out.
Yeah, I think Swix talking talk about a very impactful meeting that you guys all had 3 weeks ago, and I want to talk about. I want to hear about Devin's use in Devin. Like, how do you use Devin, and what changed in your like workflow since you joined? Because like it also changed since then.
Yeah, we're going to be publishing a blog post actually later today that is titled "How Cognition Uses Devin to Build Devin." But I think the most interesting thing that I've noticed since started working here, it's that it essentially has lowered the barrier to entry for everyone in the company to like easily contribute to improvements and polish within the platform. And a lot of people are saying, and there's obviously a lot of discussions around like displacement of jobs and things like that with a lot of the AI stuff happening. But I think one of the things it's, so if this technology can do the engineering work, we're going to need like less engineers. But what I've seen happening is that so there's just like more. If every problem is solved, let's polish this, let's make this better, let's make this faster. So you're now in a race to just build the best possible product because you no longer have that friction. So if someone notices a typo in the documentation, there's no let's go create a linear ticket and wait for someone to find the time to fix that, because obviously there's sometimes for an engineer a lot more important problems to solve than a typo in documentation. But if the person that notices that can just go in Slack and say, hey, Devin, fix this documentation typo, boom. So you now have the real problems that engineers can spend their time focusing on. And a lot of these, I would say, minor to intermediate features, bugs, and things like that just can be fixed by anyone. So that's the biggest difference that I've seen. And then beyond just the software engineering capabilities of Devin, we have a lot of MCPs and databases and analytics tools that are built in as well. So our sales teams and our analytics teams, anyone in the company can actually just ask for information about what's happening with a customer within the company and just get it directly within the same interfaces that we're working on. So those are two, I would say, big differences in what we've done in the past.
Everybody started adopting skills. And Windsurf is now in Cognition as well. And Windsurf used to take skills from not the same path. Windsurf or something /agents, whatever. And OpenAI compelled the community to get it from .agent/skills. And so I reached out, I replied, I think to Swix or Attack Swix, hey, Windsurf should align to this because why not? Everybody's putting skills in the same position. Swix replied with a screenshot of him asking Devin to do exactly this. And Devin one-shotted this over a 1 million code base of VS Code, Windsurf, etc. And just done. Yeah. Listen, go ahead.
Yeah, Nader, I also had a career change 8 years ago, thanks to your tutorials. I moved from doing DevOps and security to when I saw the Amplify beta, I was like, oh, wow, you can just command entire systems now with TypeScript, and you have infrastructure as code, and you can connect the front end, the back end. But it did feel like back then, or for a while, that things did not break as often, and the testing was done right, and you could do a lot with many people working on the same code base. And it just doesn't feel like that today. With agents and stuff, you still have to go and be manually involved in it. So this is an open-ended question. What do you feel like is missing in the way that people handle large code bases today? Do you think it's the testing? What's your opinion on this, on the difficulties of handling large code bases with agents?
I think that it's also a really cool discussion to have around what's happening within the industry in terms of people arguing over which tool is best for which job. So I think you have different types of use cases, I think right now at least, and maybe this will change and it will change, I'm sure. But you have the larger scale, more sophisticated tasks that you would only trust a senior engineer to do, right? And then you have the very, very lightweight tasks at the very other end, something like fixing a typo in documentation. Then you have kind of everything in between. So I do feel like you have, at the moment at least, different tools that are better for different jobs. So I think a CLI is better for certain jobs. An IDE/desktop app is better for other jobs. I think cloud agents are better for certain jobs. That things are just going to get better. This is the worst that they'll ever be at this moment. And I think the two main things to take into consideration in terms of more complex and large engineering tasks with larger code bases would be, number one, the context that's available and how the LLM can process that context. And then number two would be the quality of the LLM at the moment. So let's say a year from now, we're going to have better LLMs, we're going to have better context management. So I think that type of work will just get easier and easier. And I think right now you just have to still trust more senior level types of folks that understand exactly what they're doing to make those types of changes. You have the probably right people doing the right things still at the moment. So you don't want obviously a very junior person to go in and make some sophisticated change to a database schema or something that has repercussions across the entire application. So I think it's similar in terms of how you might architect your actual teams. You still need that senior level type of person to make those types of changes. But I do think that the intermediate to like easy type of stuff is totally already been abstracted away for everyone else.
Meanwhile, oh, there you are. You're good. You're back. Meanwhile, I want to show off the Devin interface and the cool things that I got. So I obviously test a bunch of these tools, right? So Devin is not the only one that can run agentic things. Recently, I've been running like a bunch of coding tasks via OpenClaw as my instrumenter to do stuff with Codex, with Claude Code, etc. Devin has the whole loop, which is great. So I want to show some stuff. Devin has a video recording of it testing my website. This is the new website that I launched for ThursdAI, by the way. You're supposedly already on as a guest there. And Devin just completely does that. I got like super excited about. I can show this here for folks. You guys see this, the preview link? Here's what happened with Devin. Cloudflare builds my website. Okay, so it happens automatically. The agents that write code and push a pull request, they don't need to know about this. Cloudflare does this, but it happens a little bit later. So like Cloudflare needs to wait for the build, etc. And so every other agent that I had was like, "Hey, Donna, push the PR and shut up." Devin pushed this PR, waited, looked at the build, found me the link and surfaced the link to me and said, "Hey, now you can actually see this." This waiting thing was like, this is the small things, right? I don't even care about which model runs behind this. It's the small things. This is needed for developers, but then also like it showed me an end-to-end like video of it testing the websites. And also the other highlight that I want to do is this. So you guys recently launched Devin Review. Devin Review is, I don't know how to describe Devin Review, but like folks, if you have a pull request and you switch the github.com to devinreview.com, you'll have Devin basically do an additional agentic pass. But the integration between Devin Review and into Devin was just incredible to me. Like Devin built a thing, found the bug, Devin Review told about the bug back to Devin, and Devin's like, "Okay, let me fix it." This loop happened with me just like sitting like this and saying, "What the fuck is going on, dude? What is this world?" Can you tell me about one more, like what else is built in there that people should know that's like different from other things?
I think Devin Review specifically has been such a success. We've had really great feedback from that. So anyone watching it, you don't need an account and it's free to use. So you can literally just do what he said, replace github.com with devinreview.com to any pull request, and you can just try it out, see if you like it or not. And again, it's free. And obviously, if you have a private repo, you do need to sign up for an account to use it. But if you have a public repo, it's completely available to do without an account. And then if you have like an enterprise account, it's a little different. But like in terms of being able to access your repos, there's more security stuff there, obviously. But yeah, there's just been a really good response from that. And it's something that has really shown me, this is obviously my first month to work with this team, but how much they really care about polish. So we have an internal Slack channel for every product, sometimes multiple for each product, where all we do is have discussions around how to make improvements. And there are probably 100 to 200 messages a day that are passed there for what we can do to improve. And almost all of them are actioned on. So if someone says, "Hey, this should be done," it isn't just left there. Someone says, "Hey, Devin, do this," and we make the improvement. So imagine that type of polish happening for days, weeks, months, and then years. That's what's been impressive about me, like working with this team so far. They really care and they're relentless about making improvements, pushing things forward. So I'm glad that kind of came through for you with Devin Review. One are scheduled sessions, which are essentially cron jobs, where you can do anything within Devin and automate it. Yeah. You'll see under sessions.
I think it's somewhere. Maybe I don't have access yet.
No, you should have access.
Oh, schedules right here. It's new.
Anyway, so this is essentially what I'm talking about. This is really cool because it's similar to how if you've used Claude, you can ask for a cron job in natural language. Here, you can actually ask for a cron job within your Devin system. And the really interesting thing is that this will integrate with all of the MCPs and any other integration that you have built in. So you can say, "Hey, give me a daily stand-up for everyone who's submitted any type of pull request to this repo, send it to Slack, and create a Notion document for this stand-up for the whole team every day." But you can also say, "Hey, every day, go look at all the Sentry like errors or any type of Sentry messages that we have from any type of bugs or logging systems that we have. And if there's anything that needs to be addressed, create a pull request for that, or create a linear ticket even, or whatever you want. You can do literally anything." So there's just all types of stuff that you can start thinking about automating that kind of make your job easier. And I think, again, like a big theme here is like, how do we automate and make a lot of this lower level to intermediate type of work abstracted away so we can focus on massive improvements and also polish. So the engineering work is still there. It's just different.
Yeah. The last thing I want to highlight, and obviously, thank you so much for coming. The last thing that I want to highlight, that this is part of the kind of the Devin ecosystem, that we have this beautiful step-by-step kind of execution that you can show what exactly happened when and for how long. Developers with actual like production systems, they care how and exactly what happened and when.
For sure.
And there has a full desktop environment and every step is documented with all the code, and that's just like fucking incredible. Nader, we have to continue. Thank you so much for coming. We'll get to a point where we'll ask you how people can actually go get Devin. I think Devin review is free to start. Devin is credit-based right now.
This week for the next week, at least. I don't know exactly how long this is going to happen, but it's free for now.
Let's go.
Yeah, if you're watching, check it out and try it out. It's free.
Awesome. Nader, I consider you a friend of the show. Please feel free to let us know about new releases that are coming and let us know and come to talk about this. Thank you so much for joining us on the Thursday.
Thank you for having me.
All right. You got to check out Devin after this, because otherwise...
I did over the weekend. I was at a hackathon.
So we need to talk to the team to bring you on credits. I find it, like, compared to OpenClaw and everything else, I found it like this is strong. This is a very strong team to work on this and building these features. It's stable. I think like a bunch of the open source stuff is not as stable as I would love to, and this is stable. Alrighty, folks, thank you so much for joining. We're almost at the end, but we have another interview for you. I want to introduce Philip to the stage. Philip, what's up? Welcome to the show. I'll bring up Wolfram to help me interview this. Philip, your first time on here.
Hey, long time listener, first time caller.
You work at Base 10. Would love for you to introduce yourself, Base 10, and then let's talk about the book that you just published.
I'm Philip. I work at a company called Base 10. I've been here for more than 4 years. Base 10 is an inference provider, and we focus on really running models for very latency sensitive customers and very uptime sensitive customers. So if you have something where it's like mission critical to your product and it has to be really fast, you generally come to us. And in 4 years in this industry, I've learned a lot about what it actually takes to like do inference, because you can't just get a GPU and put VLM on it and be like, all right, inference solved. So I wrote a book that came out Monday called Inference Engineering, which kind of talks through end to end the entire problem of inference and the dozens of technologies that are involved. And I was hoping that people would like this book. I got like 1 million views on Twitter. I've had almost 10,000 people download the book already. So it's been just an overwhelming reception from the market.
Incredible, dude. Congratulations. Thank you so much for reaching out to me and also sending me a copy as well. Waiting to receive this.
It gets here later today.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. Let's go.
Yeah, I've made close personal friends with a lot of the folks at the FedEx office because I've been shipping so many books.
That's great. So I do want to ask you another question about when DeepSeek came out a year ago and it crashed the stock market. It crashed the stock market specifically because people were like, oh, for training, and we're talking about inference, but for training, maybe the amount of money that these companies spend on ridiculous, data centers, etc. And for clarity, like me and Wolfram here work at Weights and Biases, who purchased by CoreWeave, right? So like we're also part of this thing. Like maybe the money is overspent, whatever, they're doing this. But then also OpenAI launched the whole test time compute paradigm. And now there's another scaling law. The model thinks the better it performs. At sometimes, we know some examples that it's not true, and turning off thinking is actually better. But like at most of the time, for some tasks, the more inference happens in the model, the more it performs better for economically viable tasks. And here you're working on like inference thing. Do you imagine inference not being needed going forward? This is basically my answer. I know the answer. I'm kind of the question to you. I know how I feel about this, but like even when model training is kind of like whatever, inference is absolutely there, and it's just like the demand for inference is absolutely bonkers, insane. Is that what you guys are also seeing? Is that what you're seeing from an inference engineering perspective as well?
Inference is everything, man. Like inference, it's on our website, it's on our billboards for a reason. I will say with the stock market crash. So I grew up in Iowa, and if you're growing up in Iowa, the closest sort of center of academic learning when it comes to economics is the University of Chicago. And out of the University of Chicago came, I think, one of the most dangerous ideas that you can expose an impressionable young person to. And that is the efficient market hypothesis, or the idea that like the participants in a market actually know what's going on and things are appropriately priced. And for a long time, I believed in it because it's what I was told growing up. But much like Santa Claus, it turns out that the efficient market hypothesis doesn't exist. So I was a huge fan of that particular stock market crash and bought the dip. 100%. Because I know that the demand in this space is absolutely insatiable. If training gets cheaper and easier, people want to do more training, because now instead of relying on a handful of closed labs like OpenAI and Anthropic and Gemini to do 100% of your AI roadmap for you, like customers have the opportunity to train their own models and own their intelligence. And so now, instead of there being a handful of customers for training, now there are thousands, tens of thousands of customers for training. And then inference is even bigger, honestly. Like, I think that maybe a few years ago, training was the majority of the market, but I see a future where inference is like 10x or 100x bigger than training, because everybody needs inference. There's going to be local inference on your computer. There's going to be cloud inference. There's going to be inference on your phone. There's going to be inference everywhere. And so I honestly feel like being in inference today is being in distributed systems 10 years ago or being in mobile 10 years ago. It's just such a fundamental shift in the technologies that are out there and the sort of demand for engineering expertise that, yeah, I just couldn't imagine a better industry to be working in.
I think that obviously we're stepping into kind of inference for the past 6 months as well. We're doubling into this on the consumer side, right? Consumers can come and get tokens from weights and biases inference as well. Corvin has been doing this for a while. It's like the Jevons paradox thing as well for many people that they don't get it. Recently, there was this, I don't know if you saw this chart. Somebody showed like a chart of the whole world and how many people like even talk to AI for free. And then out of those, how many people actually paid the $20 a month for the basic intelligence. And in the corner there's a very tiny point of how many people have AI agents running autonomously as they sleep. And all of us on the show just recently got to a point where some of the time agents are running, right? Like fairly recently. So, and that is, if I imagine this to be a scale of some sort, and this will like follow the same trend, most of the people will have some sort of thing happening to them behind the scenes when they sleep. Proactive agents, I think, is the theme of this year. That was all directly inference. Wolfram, go ahead.
So one, I totally agree with the inference is needed by everyone. Most people don't know it yet, but it is like electricity that you need to power your systems. You need inference to power your intelligence, basically.
We've been talking about the price of intelligence going down to zero. Like we've been talking about this. But I'm paying out of my nose for all these pro subscriptions. What the fuck? Where's the trend? Tell me about like where you land, because the better intelligence is, yes, the inference improvements are there, like in speed ups, in the preloading, in caching, in like a bunch of stuff. Yeah, and I wish we had the time to dive in exactly how this world changed, but it definitely changed, and even is like incredibly more efficient now, etc. On the other side, they keep releasing bigger models and they keep requiring more GPUs, and so it keeps being more expensive. So the max subscription for Claude, for example, is significantly much better than going to the API directly, and that even they're subsidizing it. Where do you see this trend? Is inference going down to zero? Is the price of intelligence going down to zero? Or are we going to keep inventing bigger models and it's going to cost more and more money? At some point, they will stop subsidizing this. It will cost even more money. Where do you land on this?
So a couple of things on there. I think it's always going to cost money to run models unless we build some kind of perfect fusion reactor and electricity becomes free. And even if electricity was free, I still think it would cost money. The question of subsidy, I think that like subsidization is somewhat over commentated on in this space. Certainly there is a lot of subsidy happening, but there is also a lot of like really solid businesses being built in this space that have positive unit economics. So I do think that there are certainly, especially among some of the bigger labs, there's certainly a lot of subsidy happening, but at the same time, like we are in a world where I think intelligence costs are reasonable compared to the input prices.
Wolfram, you want to get to Nissan's question? So we'll go while I scroll through this beautiful website that you guys built for inference engineering to tell folks about where to get this book.
Inference requirements are exploding. Now we finally understand why we are building all these data centers. So the question is, in the last month, there was a sudden GPU shortage. How has it been affecting you and your company?
We are constantly looking for capacity, just because less about market conditions and more about the pace of growth that this company is continuously on. We're constantly looking for more capacity to fulfill demand. I think that right now we've got tons of GPUs, so come on through and grab some.
I have a question, Philip.
Yeah.
What's your take about data centers in space, GPUs in space?
I think it's cool as hell. That's for sure. GPUs are cool. Data centers are cool. Space is cool. Put them all together.
Cool. Yeah.
I am certainly a big fan of GPUs that I can walk up to and turn them off and back on again when they're misbehaving.
All right. Philip, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on your book. But folks, if you want to grab Philip's book to read all about inference and learn inference engineering at base 10, please get it. We haven't talked about the open source stuff at all, so I think we've been known for covering open source for a while. So let's talk about this. We have two releases that we need to cover. One of them is our friends from Qwen released a medium model, Qwen 3.5. It's a 35 billion parameter model, only 3 billion active, outperforms the previous 235 billion parameter flagship. This has been the trend for the local open source models. Niston, LDJ, Wolfram, if you have any comments about the new Qwen, feel free. I would love to hear about this.
Is the second release also by Qwen, or is it something else? Because they also released 27B. Okay. So yeah, there's the 35B active 3B, and there's also a 27B, which is even a bit better than this one.
This one is special in the architecture because people were testing it locally with just one 3090 and then offloading to the CPU. And it kept the same performance even after 100,000 tokens on local hardware. And it turned out that 30 out of the 40 layers are actually hybrid state space model Mamba layers. So this is just a completely different model, completely different MOE from what we've seen so far. This is more like Jamba. And I'm excited when they come up with the coding version of this. So this is a pretty big leap on them. And I'm not surprised there's issues and stuff. But again, that's 112 tokens. Normally, models just drop to, especially on local hardware, if you're running on 3090s at home, they drop to 20 tokens per second or 10 after that. And this one just does not drop because of this architecture. So that is incredibly interesting.
And we've talked about hybrid architectures like Mamba, etc., specifically for long context and dropping. And it looks like Qwen is adopting this. And Qwen is usually the canary in the coal mine as well for like open models. So like it looks like some other folks will start doing this as well. Native at 262 context window, extensible to 1 million. Via Yarn, it looks like everything that Qwen is doing is via Yarn as well. I would love to test it on like SWE-bench Pro and see. But GPK Diamond is very high as well. So this is definitely a model. But yeah, Wolfram, you're right. There's a whole lineup of models here that they released, not just the one model. There is Qwen 3.5 Flash, 3.5 35B, which is this one, 122B, and then is that a dense 27B? It's just like a dense, right? It's not an MOE. It's like a dense 27 billion parameter model. Yep.
And it's even a small tick better in the benchmarks. I personally looked at the terminal bench scores, and the most interesting thing is also that GPT OSS 120B, which is much bigger and is one of the best local models, basically, only got 18.7%, where they are over 40%.
Terminal bench, yeah.
On terminal bench. It's a big leap in the agentic and coding capabilities in this. And it's also very significant because all the other open source models we got in the recent past, like Kimi and Minimax and so on, they are all too big to run on just GPU. So most people can't run them. While this one, they worked. You can put it on one 3090 and on CPU, like Niston said, or on two, you have the speed. It's super fast. So this is very exciting, and it's my favorite of the week. We didn't do favorite this time on the show, but this would have been my choice.
All righty. So Qwen.
Like we've been using these as base models for some of our recent fine-tuning experiments. So I'm very excited about these models, less in terms of like just running it as is and more as like, instead of adapting a 235B base, if we can adapt one of these guys instead, then we automatically just get so much further in terms of meeting a latency and a cost requirement.
Yep. And just to tie a loop back, Qwen was not named as one of the folks who distilled Anthropic. They were not part of the 3 other labs. The release that we didn't cover, that we didn't get the chance to, our friends from Liquid also released a Liquid Foundation model. It's this is the largest one, so it's very interesting that they can release a 24 billion MOE, where Qwen releases like smaller as well, 34. This one has only 2.3 billion active parameters and also runs on consumer laptops. So LFM has been focusing on smaller models and finally released like a little bit of a big one. Folks, do we have any comments on the LFM architecture? Also, this is not, as far as I know, like Mamba layers. They have a specific thing, right, Nissan?
Yeah. This one's completely different. I tested this one. It can't code, but I am extremely impressed with the math and with everything else from the model. It was super fast. And it answered my vibe checks about all the different like Martian railgun, like the really difficult physics and math questions. It answered all of those perfectly. And they've trained it on 17 trillion tokens, and they're still continuing to train it. So this might turn into a surprisingly significant release from them. I just randomly tested it yesterday. So it was extremely good at tasks that didn't involve code. In code, it was just like a very small amount and then not bother. So I don't think it's really trained for that. But everything else was excellent, surprisingly.
Two models in open source. I'm pretty sure like others released. The model that broke ARC-AGI was also open source MIT. Thank you so much, Philip Kiely, for joining us. Folks, at 2 hours and almost 30 minutes, I think it's time to land this plane. The only thing that I want to say is that we're still all waiting for the big one, for DeepSeek V4, whatever they're going to release. Everybody looks like they're gearing up to it, including the US government. Let's run through the TLDR and make sure that we have covered, at least mentioned everything that we had to cover. Oh, I think we covered pretty much everything else. We didn't cover like Cedence. Oh yeah, okay. Cedence 2. I want to show you Cedence 2. I think I have it open. Finally landed as for users, while the API is getting delayed by ByteDance because Disney and everybody else send cease and desist, etc. Cedence 2 launched on CapCut. CapCut is the kind of the editor from ByteDance, and you can get it. And I can show you exactly how to get it on Cedence. So let me bring this here. You go to AI video right here. It still says 1.5 on the thing, but like Cedence 2 is now part of the. You have to choose it in a dropdown, and it costs quite. It's not cheap. You can give it one image or multiple images, but it's restricted. So as far as you guys remember when we talked about Cedence, you can give it video. This is how everybody generates those Seinfeld episodes where Seinfeld says some crazy shit. This is a video to video transfer. You cannot use video to video here via this. You can use one image, but it's definitely not going to use the voices. And I think the voices is what broke the internet as well. So this is Cedence, and let's look at Thales demo. Nissan, can you tell us about this super quick? What the hell are we looking at?
Yeah, 3 engineers left TensorFlow while they were making accelerators, so new GPUs, basically. So these were actual engineers that had worked on actual chips. This wasn't just something like etched or like an investor play. Like they didn't even raise that much money, but they finally shipped a product which has the baked-in weights of Llama 3 8B. And it is just nuts. It is limited to 8K context, but I think it would be funny to have it like summarize part of our transcript, but it might just be a bit too long.
Yeah, it looks a little bit too long. So we're looking at ChatGimi, ChatGimi.ai, literally. Let me just ask it for a short story about Mars or GPUs in space.
It's just
folks who are not watching. I pressed the button and a longer story just appeared as though it was sitting there for me to just show this to me. And it shows me 15,691 tokens per second. And this whole thing was generated in 0.048 seconds. And this is unfortunately limited. Nisa, do we know which model this runs at?
It's Llama 3 8B. That's what I heard.
So still Llama.
This was the demo. I guess it did take them a while to bake in the weights. And honestly, even if you're going to do filtering stuff, or moderation models, those are just 3B now. So there's already uses for this thing to run it like,
it's an incredible use case for something like this. Immediate guardrails, LLM as a judge, which we know that like other models should be able to do. This is 15,000 tokens. This happens with burning the model onto the actual chip. Alrighty, folks, we had an incredible week, capping off an incredible month in February with a bunch of launches. Opus 6 and Codex 5.3 and Gemini 3.1 Pro and just like a lot of other stuff. Also Grok release, but nobody cared. Capping off an insane start of 2026 with OpenClaw and skills and just like mind-blowing stuff. Sentience and images and Nano Banana 2 just launched. So this is only the first 2 months of this year. I'm very happy with the amount of guests that we're having. We had guests today, Nader from Cognition and Philip Kiely from Base 10. And we had Ben, who's building a company that broke $700,000 in ARR live on the show after having 600,000 yesterday and having 500,000 the day before. So he's like adding $100,000 in ARR every week right now, which is just absolutely bonkers and very indicative to the singularity that we're all experiencing. With this, I'm very happy that you all are here. In addition, I'm happy that like over 2,000 folks are tuning into the show to just help us get them up to speed. If you missed any part of the show, ThursdAI is available on ThursdAI.news, our new website. Please check it out, ThursdAI.news. And also everywhere we get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, and on Substack, I release a newsletter that I write myself. And I try to not use AI as much at all in there just to fix, because I think that voice and tone is very important. And so if you are looking for authenticity, ThursdAI is here. We're live. This is not AI. We'll see them maybe in a year or two, but for now we're live and we're bringing you the experts from the industry. So we're hugely appreciative of everybody who tunes in, spends time with us, and we'll see you here next week. Thank you so much, folks, for joining. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you here next week. Bye-bye, everyone. And